So a long time ago, when I was 14 years old, I used to love getting an allowance. I used to love just sitting around the house and letting mom and dad go out and do all the adulting kind of things, and I didn't have to worry about it. Never would I have considered showing up on a Saturday for free, playing in front of adults for a serious issue of Black History Month. So, would you thank the band? Yeah, I did that. My name is Pastor Frank Morris. I've been a resident of Oregon for 30 years, and that's nearly half my life. In that time, I have seen this community do a lot of things and do very little. I have seen this community try to do various things and succeed at very little. It is one of those things where we're taking an opportunity for a month to recognize Black people in our own community and our own nation. It's an honor to stand in front of each and every one of you. Join me in a moment of prayer. Father God, each and every one of us here comes with an opinion. Each and every one of us comes with an insight. Each and every one of us comes here with a personal truth. Let us share our ideas, let us share our visions, but most of all, let us share truth and love one to another. Next, we're going to have the land acknowledgement. Monmouth, Oregon is located within the traditional homelands of the Luckamute Band of Kalapuya. Following the Willamette Valley Treaty of 1855, Kalapuya people were forcibly removed to the reservations in Western Oregon. Today, living descendants of these people are part of the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde Community of Oregon and the Confederate Tribes of the Celeste Indians. Subnote, my father was just here and gave us a history lesson, and there are 142 treaties written in the United States of America for Native Americans. Can you guess how many have been broken? 142. Can you guess who broke them? The U.S. government. One of the things, as we're standing here and we're celebrating and everything else, don't forget where you stand. And don't forget upon what you're standing. I'm going to take some time. Oregon was established as a free white state. That meant no slaves could come into this state. That meant if you were Black, you needed to leave this state. That meant if you were Black and married to a white person once a year, you were taken to the town center and beaten until you chose to leave the state. When some of my friends, and this is the characteristic of Oregon, when some of my friends found that out at Bi-Mart, they thought it would be fun to take me out to the center of town and beat me. And I suggested that they don't do it. We need to understand where we are, what kind of place this is. This is a free white state. It wasn't intended for Black folks. And we just happened to roll in and be here. Was a law in Dallas. I don't know if it's still in the books. As a Black person, I had to have a $5 bill in my wallet. If it was less than $5, I was a vagrant. If it was more than $5, I was a thief and could be put in jail. These are the things that we're talking about. Though they seem subtle, they affect me every day. We went to Minnesota. I got to marry one of my family members there. While we were there, we got to go by the George Floyd Memorial. If you can imagine, in front of Rick's place, a mural on the wall, flowers, crosses, candles, and somebody died there with a knee upon them while we videotaped. That's what the George Floyd Memorial looked like. And in that midst of that moment, I cried, but I had to keep moving because you're in the city square and everything else. When I came back here, this is going to make me cry. On the 1-year anniversary in our town center, we had a memorial for George Floyd. And during it, I gave a cardboard testimony, which means I don't speak. I got down on one knee and held up cardboard that had written on it the words that were spoken while George Floyd was held on the ground. 9.5 minutes. And the words were like, "Come on, man, can't you see he's moving? Should we let him up? Should we turn him over? He deserves it. This is what you get." And during that 9.5 minutes, during that time I was standing there, the people I go to church with had a Bible study and didn't come out to find out what was going on. This is the town I live in. These are the things that I face, and I ask you to help me. I am terrified at times to go outside my door. I am terrified at times to tell you the truth. When Obama was elected president, I didn't get to celebrate. I had to be quiet because all the people around me were really mad. That's why we have this history. That's why we have this month. That's why we have this time together. So we're going to get back to the anthem. I'm going to quit talking for a moment. I apologize. No, I don't. I'm so tired of apologizing. I am glad you got to share my tears and my pain. I have tears. I have pain. I need your help. I need union with each and every one of you. Please join me in fighting racism. Done. All right, come on out, guys.
Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun, let us march on till victory is won. Let us march on till victory is won.
I forgot to put on my mask. I'm sorry. I say that to my wife. Interim President Jay Kenton. Last time we were here, I mentioned that he's interim, which means he really doesn't have to, do that much right now. He can kind of pass through. There's nothing going on. Everything's fine. And then I make fun how it's not so easy to be an adult. And he's got it fully sitting on his shoulders. There's opportunity right now in this university to do a whole lot of things. We're coming out of 2.5 years of what the heck was that? And in the midst of coming out of it, a format, a level field, a solid foundation can be set. And this guy is the guy that has to do it. So welcome the interim president, Western Oregon University, who has a lot of responsibility on his shoulders.
Thank you, Pastor Morris. And welcome to Western Oregon University and to the closing event for our Black History Month celebration. I again want to thank the City of Monmouth for co-sponsoring this event. Perhaps we need to remember our common humanity, the fact that in the end, we are more alike than we are different. The villains are rare as the true heroes. Why is there so much hate in today's world? Are we born this way? No. Hate is taught and passed down from generation to generation. Hate feeds off fear, and before we know it, we're in the exact situation we find ourselves in today. Whoa. But the silver lining is that we can change this. We can educate ourselves. We can help educate each other. There is no better time than right now to start. I want to read some of the lyrics of one of my favorite musicians, Stevie Wonder's Love's in Need of Love Today. And I want to thank Elisa Maroney for suggesting this as I was looking around for something to talk about today. The song goes as follows. Good morning or evening, friends. Here's your friendly announcer. I have serious news to pass on to everybody. What I'm about to say could change the world's disaster, could change your joy and laughter to tears and pain. It's that love's in need of love today. Don't delay, send yours in right away. Hate's going around, breaking many hearts. Stop it, please, before it's gone too far. The force of evil plans to make you its possession, and it will, if we let it, destroy everybody. We must all take precautionary measures. If love and peace you treasure, then you'll hear me when I say that love's in need of love today. Don't delay, send yours in right away. Hate's going around, breaking many hearts. Stop it, please, before it's gone too far. Thank you for coming today. I want to conclude briefly because I'm really looking forward to hearing from some of our amazing faculty, staff, and students and other speakers. But please spread the joy through love and fight the hate present in today's world. Working together, let's make the world a better place for all. Thank you all very much.
John Kerry, part of the city council here in Monmouth. Sometimes we look at somebody and all the time, we look at somebody and we already know what they're like. We look at somebody and we see their skin color, we see how tall they are, fat they are, male, female, we've got it figured out. And one of the things reading about John Kerry that you don't know that's important to know is he nearly died. And if it was not for somebody else reaching into the car, putting themselves in danger, he would not be here today. One of the things that we kind of dismiss is miracles. One of the things we kind of dismiss is it happened to them, it'll never happen to me. Because of his experience of somebody reaching into the car and pulling him out and saving his bacon, he's going to reach into our lives. Part of his work in the city council is to save lives, is to give opportunity to people in the community and everything else. John Kerry was in a car crash. The car caught on fire and they pulled him out in time. So when you see this man come up here, see a survivor, someone who needed somebody else's help, assistance, full commitment to save him, and realize that is his commitment to us. John Kerry.
Thanks for sparing us the graphic details of that auto accident, but I am, and I appreciate you acknowledging that. Very fortunate because had an unexplained loss of consciousness, and were it not for actually a Lincoln County County Sheriff coming to Western Oregon to participate in a criminal justice day happened to see me drive off the road and had the training and courage to go and did pull me out. And so aside from a wrist that doesn't work very well and a bit of a limp, I'm in good shape. And hadn't thought of that for a while, Frank, but thank you. Good afternoon, folks. And as Frank said, I'm John Carey. I am a member of the Monmouth City Council, and by virtue of being there for quite a while, I'm the council president. And today I'm representing our mayor, Cease Coons, who, if you were here last time, you would have heard her. She couldn't come today. She has an engagement that's taken her out of town. Before I begin, and as is my tradition and the tradition of many, I'd like to introduce any elected officials that are here, fellow city council person, I guess. Sorry for the gender error. Carol McKeel is right here and doing good work for us. I'm told that Rebecca Salinas Oliveros is online, so we miss you, Rebecca, and we'll see you on Tuesday. At any rate, thank you all, and because I recognize what the service entails, thank you for the service that you both provide and we all do. I've lived in Monmouth for nearly 35 years. I'm a retired faculty member and director of athletics in the last 20 years of my career here, and 38 years all in with the university. So it's with that I welcome you to Western. I echo President Kenton's welcome to you, and on behalf of the City Council, I'd like to welcome you to Monmouth, for those of you that aren't residents. We're proud to be participating in this event, and we hope that it continues in the years to come, and I'm certain that it will. One of the things that when I was asked to fill in for the mayor, I thought, well, okay, welcome. That's pretty easy. Is there anything else that I could add? And my first thought was no, and then I thought more, and I thought, well, maybe I could. And so as we pulled the curtain down on this year's Black History Month, I hope that it doesn't signify an end, and this will be a theme, I hope, but it's rather a continuation, a to be continued, and not just that discrete, finite event that it often is. As an educator, I like to recap what was covered at our last meeting and then move from there to the new material. And so let me share with you some of the things that resonated with me in last time's gathering. And I'm sorry for this. I can deal with this fine if it doesn't bother you. I'm fine with it. It was good till Frank got a hold of it, and then he's leaning on it. I was struck by two things that Senator Lou Frederick said in his remarks last time. He said, our job as adults and as a city councilor, I'm going to sort of insert with a slash, it's our job as adults and city councilors to make sure that things are better for those that come after us. He also said that our focus needs to be on determining where we need to go. And again, that resonated with me. In our work at the Monmouth City Council, our council and our mayor and our city staff is dedicated and committed to making things better right now, but certainly into the future for all that come beyond us. And we're forever trying to answer that question, where do we need to go? As the council, we've done many things over the last couple of years, some 4 or 5 years ago, some more recently, but in the context of this gathering, there's a few things that I'd like to focus on that may be of interest. In 2017, in response to a widespread surge of anti-immigrant and racist behaviors and rhetoric across the country, directed at immigrants, ethnic, and racial minorities, the City Council adopted a statement of inclusivity, declaring that Monmouth was a welcoming city and that all residents are included, welcome, and to be treated fairly. Now, this was an aspirational comment, or an aspirational statement, because we know that hasn't always happened. But nonetheless, in our opinion, it established the bar against which all behavior is to be measured. So we're living in, for all of our failings, in an inclusive city. Last year, the city began the process of reviewing zoning and housing codes. This spring, we'll begin to revise those codes and remove unnecessary barriers to development and improve access to fair and affordable housing for all residents. Last year, at our council goal-setting session, we adopted a series of core values that included a diversity, equity, and inclusion statement. Those values are, and this is in quotes because it's part of the document, guiding principles for all that we do. These principles guide the work of the council, they guide the work of our city staff, and they guide the work of our service departments that provide service to you all. This spring and into next year, the city is going to be involved in launching programs to promote inclusive entrepreneurship. Now, that's a long word, but what it means to you is we're going to convene individuals and groups who can encourage, assist, support small businesses, particularly with a particular focus on minority-owned and operated businesses, allowing them to flourish and to build capital necessary for stability and growth. Recently, we hired a new police chief. He's a Western Oregon graduate, and he understands and is committed to the city of Monmouth. Already, he's initiated training for our officers in diversity awareness, anti-bias training, conflict de-escalation, and other modern progressive policing techniques. We think that this is a start of making things better for those that follow, but much more obviously is needed. Another of our values is community engagement. We want to engage our community, all levels of our community. We reach out, encourage all members to participate in our local government. I invite each of you to seek opportunities to help answer the question, where do we go from here? Back to Senator Frederick. Help us answer that question. There are opportunities there, and we're doing our best to get them out. While none of these examples are landmark, watershed decisions, they do acknowledge that progress is being made toward making Monmouth a more welcoming and inclusive city. I've taken longer than I'd intended. Frank's tapping his toe over here, says that's enough, John. But I do appreciate the opportunity to provide this welcome, and I look forward to all the speakers that are yet to come. But I'll have to say none more than my friend and former colleague, the great Daryl Thomas. He's up next, or soon to be, following Senator Merkley. And when I talked to Daryl when I got here, I said, there's something that I'm going to share with people that not many know. And most of you are not going to know this. There might be a couple been around long enough. When Daryl arrived on the campus of Monmouth nearly, and I said 20, but he says 25 years ago, and think of Monmouth 25 years ago, there was one thing that made him stand out. He was immediately recognizable. Now, it's probably something different than what you might be thinking if you know Daryl. He was the first person and perhaps the only person ever to ride a Segway scooter in Monmouth. You remember those Segways? They're like, they got the big wheels on them and you stand up like this. Well, Daryl could get from one end of campus to the other quicker than anybody imaginable. He was fast, but on that thing, he was really fast. The only thing that slowed him down was when they put speed bumps in on Monmouth Avenue. That slowed him up a little bit. So in his remarks, perhaps he'll mention that. He tells me he still has it. But he's a good guy, and I'm glad that he's on our program. You will all be better for hearing him. Once again, thank you for attending. Welcome to the city of Monmouth, and we hope for those of you that are coming and going away, we hope your stay is rewarding. And for those of you that live here, thank you very much, and find ways to participate. Thank you.
Senator Merkley, right now, it's interesting. I was looking at the notes of his comments and things that he's done so far this year. And there's 5 major things that he's done, and he's even spoken about the Ukraine and the attack of Russia trying to take over. Senator Merkley does not believe that the weak should be taken advantage of. Just does not believe that is true. Does not believe that just because it's not being used means you have the right to take it and use it. Doesn't believe that at all. Senator Merkley has a desire to help us. It's one of those things where I would take a look at the Oregon Senate, the bills that are going through right now, because some of them need assistance from us, the citizens, just an extra little push. You can look at Senator Merkley's webpage, and it also lists things that he's interested in, everything else, and you can also put input in there. So don't just take a visual score, oh yeah, that was him. Go look at his website. Find out what he's fighting for, and find out how you can join him in the fight that he's fighting. Senator Merkley.
Greetings to everyone attending today's kickoff meeting. Senator Jeff Merkley here, and thanks to the Monmouth City Council and everyone at Western Oregon University who helped organize today's event. Black History Month is a time for all of us, all across Oregon and across our nation, to recognize the indescribable impact that generation upon generation of Black Americans have made to our nation. To celebrate Black culture and all of its contributions to America's past, present, and future, and to recommit ourselves to the struggle to achieve and ensure justice and equality for all of our citizens. That might seem difficult in today's charged environment. There's no question that the tumult and turmoil of the past few years have shown how far we still have to go to achieve that vision of justice and that vision of equality. The protests over the unjust murders of Black Americans and the rise of Black Lives Matter, a pandemic that has laid bare the vast inequalities in economics and health and housing and access to opportunities, a movement by some to erase or whitewash the history of our nation's struggle for racial justice, the struggles of Frederick Douglass and Dr. King, of W.E.B. Du Bois and James Baldwin and Harriet Tubman and Sojourner Truth and Rosa Parks and so many more. But that history can't be erased, because that history, the history of Black Americans, is the history of America. We have to learn it and learn from it, because it informs every aspect of our nation and our society. We can't talk about the inequality of mass incarceration in our prisons without learning and talking about the 13th Amendment slavery clause that allowed freed Black Americans to be re-enslaved. We can't talk about economic inequality today without learning about the Jim Crow laws that determined when and where a Black American could work and how they could earn a living and where they could live. And we can't talk about today's fight to stop attacks on Americans' voting rights without understanding the generations-long struggles of the civil rights movement from the end of Reconstruction to the passage of the 1965 Voting Rights Act. To understand American history, you have to understand Black history, plain and simple. So thank you again to not only everyone who helped organize today's event, but to everyone who is participating. Dr. King once said that human progress is neither automatic nor inevitable. Every step toward the justice requires sacrifice, suffering, and struggle, the tireless exertions and passionate concern of dedicated individuals. By being part of today's event by learning and by sharing the powerful stories of Black history in America, not just this month, but every day and every month of the year. Each and every one of you is one of those dedicated individuals helping to move our country step by step toward the goal of justice and equality for all.
So a long time ago, when so there's this, I'm going to describe this in my terms. There was this beautiful Black man that came into Bi-Mart one time, beautiful, dreadlocks, tall, handsome, and everything else. And he was the first Black man that I had seen in this town in 2-3 years. Beautiful guy. And he was a dancer, and he was busy, and he didn't have time to talk, and he left. Oh, man. But then I saw him again. And so every time I got to see Daryl, it was one of those things where there was this beautiful Black man, and I just want to talk to I just want to talk to him and everything, but he's always busy. So I was at work, he was busy, we didn't get to talk. You don't know this unless you read his bio. He's an Emmy Award winner. At the Kennedy Center, he did a performance there during one of their anniversary celebrations, and he won an Emmy. He's a lifetime living award winner, Willamette Valley, one of the Willamette Valley hero kind of people. He's also traveled to 10 or more countries, foreign countries, doing his dance, performance, instruction, and learning as well. The most amazing thing that I like is they asked him, what are you going to do when he retires? And he said, you know, I'm having so much fun right now. Why would I'm going to miss this. I'm going to miss this fun I'm having and everything else. So let's not kick him out yet. So Daryl, would you and your dance crew come out? It's the Rainbow Dance Performers.
Hacen corriente quale modo di essere abbiamo questo quale non può dire niente se ya e lo sono ya se ya se o a questo me lo vira e non vira la sara e non vira maduro se tonica eso para que se e modria nada sale e turi nada sa a casa aye oyo
Thank you. Well, my name is Daryl Thomas, and I'm professor of dance here at Western Oregon University, and the artistic director for Rainbow Dance Theater. Valerie Bergman, the other artistic director, you'll meet her in just a second. And I'm very happy to be here this afternoon to celebrate Black History Month with you. The dance that you just saw is a dance that's called Munjani, a dance done in the villages of West Africa by young women who, actually they're girls who want to become young women or recognized as women in the society. And so they have to learn and do this dance in order to say, I'm ready to be a woman. Okay? But even more important about this dance is what it does, is it builds and forges community. Because as these young girls are learning the dance, they're working together to learn the dance, they're building a sense of community, a sense of relationship between them that they carry on when they become women. They take care of each other's children. They look out for each other. They really support each other. It's really about forging community. And that's one of the things that I'd like to share with you in our time together, is this idea of how African-American culture, coming from Africa, has been used to build and forge community. So why don't we do a little bit of community building right now as you learn a dance that you can do right where you're seated. I know you're looking at me like, is he serious? Yes, I'm serious. So you're gonna take your one hand, your right hand, and go 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, not the Macarena. Actually, much older, I can see. Some people were thinking that. Nope, sorry, much older. Here we go. Ready? And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Now, your left hand points down. 1. Flip it over, 2. Make a box or rectangle, 3. Now, bottom hand goes on top, 4. Let's try that again for Dr. Kenton and Jay over there that haven't been dancing in a while. They haven't been out partying in a long time. It's been a minute. So we'll try that again for them. Ready? 7 and 8. Left hand, 1. Flip, 2. Box, 3. Bottom hand on top, 4. Much better, gentlemen, much better. Slide it apart, 5. Wave it, 6. Fix your coif or your hairdo, 7. Pose, 8. One more time, then we'll try it with music. Here we go. From the top, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Left hand, 1, flip, 2, box, 3, bottom hand goes on top, 4, slide it apart, 5, wave it, 6, coif, 7, pose, 8. Now, some of you might know the name of this dance already. Again, it's not the Macarena, but I'm going to play the music. We'll do the dance to the music, and then I'll ask you afterwards to see if you know the name of this dance. Here we go. Let's try it with music.
Strike a pose, there's
And
nothing to it.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Left hand. 1, 2, 3. Bottom on top. Slide it apart. 5, 6, 7, 8, 5, 6. Ready. One more time. And 1, 2, 3, 4. That's it. 5, 6, 7, 8. Left hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. Slide it apart. 5, 6, 7, 8. Give yourselves a big round of applause. Very nice. Very nice. Anyone know the name of this dance? Yep, you got it exactly. Voguing, that's exactly right. What's the big thing or important thing about voguing? Well, voguing is a dance that's originally done, or actually Madonna made it popular back in the late 80s. But it was being done many, many years ago before Madonna made it popular. And actually, it was done by gay African Americans. Gay African Americans, they would do this dance many, many years ago before Madonna made it popular. What's important about that? Well, gay African Americans used this dance as a way to identify the groups that they were, and also to forge community amongst themselves. Because here was a population that was certainly ostracized, or marginalized, I should say, marginalized by the greater society, but also even when in the African American community, they were not really accepted totally. And so this was one of the ways in which they could use dance as a way to say, look, this is who we are. We accept who we are, and they could use this dance form to celebrate who they were. Celebrating who they were. So again, dance, forging and building community. I'm going to sing a song for you, and the name of the song is called Ham Bone. Ham Bone. Okay? And I'm going to accompany myself, meaning I'm going to play an instrument, but I'm not going to play the instrument that's here beside me, the drum. The instrument that I'm going to play is my thigh. I'm going to slap or hit my thigh. And slapping or hitting the thigh is known as ham boning. Ham boning with an ing. Here's how ham boning came about. Back a couple hundred years ago, when Africans were brought to this country, they brought with them the memory of their culture, the songs they sang, the dances that they danced here in West Africa. And they wanted to do those dances here in this country. But they weren't allowed to do that. They weren't allowed to even make or even play a drum. If you were a slave, which is what they were at that point, and you were caught doing this, the police could come and arrest you, and worse, they could even execute you just for doing this. And you're probably wondering, why would they make a law that the slaves could not make or play a drum? Well, one of the reasons is because the drum can be used to communicate with people. And in West Africa, this drum is used to communicate with friends and family for over a mile. Even today, even with cell phones, people still use this drum, known as the talking drum, to talk to friends and family for over a mile. They'll say, hey, come to our house, we're going to have a party. Bring lots of food, all using the drum. This drum works in a similar way to your throat. Inside of your throat, you have strands of muscle fiber, sort of like this, that when you tighten them, you get a very, very high sound. And when you relax them, you get a very low sound. This drum works in the same way. When I squeeze the strings, it tightens the skin. Listen to the sound or the pitch of the drum. When I relax it, now, I'm going to play something. It's a greeting that we often say to people in this country when we meet them for the first time. See if you can guess what I'm trying to say or communicate using the drum. Anyone have an idea of what that might be? You got it. Hello, how are you? You got it. And so in that way, you can use the drum to communicate, okay? If you understand the language of the drum. And that's what the plantation masters were afraid of. That's why they made the law. Because they were afraid. They said, if we let the slaves have the drum, they'll communicate with slaves on other plantations, maybe even organize an escape or a revolt, which they actually did back in the 1800s. And so that's why they made the law that the slaves could not make or play a drum. So the slaves said, hey, since we can't make or play a drum, we'll make our bodies into drums by slapping or hitting the body, known as body percussion. For example, body percussion, or applause, we call it, but it's really body percussion, using the body to create sound. So, I'll set up my mic here. The words of the song, ham bone is the name of the song, and I'm going to ham bone, slap or hit my body in order to accompany myself with the song. So, the words of the song go, ham bone, where you been? Around the world and back again. And on the plantation, it was very rare for slaves to get meat. For example, if I lived on the plantation and I got a ham bone, I would take the ham bone, put it in a pot, maybe put vegetables in there, maybe make a soup for my family. And I'd use the ham bone to season the vegetables. Then I'd take the bone out of the pot, put it in a bowl, pass it to my neighbor, and I say, here, Brianne, you take the ham bone and you make something for your family. And she would do the same thing, and she would take it and she would pass it to her neighbor, and it would go all the way around the room or all the way around the community, and eventually the bone would come back to me, okay? And so that's why the words to the song go, ham bone, where you been? Around the world or around the community and back again. I said around the world, said around the world, said around the world and back again. Well, ham bone, where you been? Say around the world and back again. Ham bone, show is nice. Love you with the red beans and rice. Ham bone, have you heard? Ham bone was the word. Well, now ham bone, love to roam home. Ham bone, come on home. Ham bone, ham bone, ham bone, and that's ham boning. All right? Thank you. Thank you. Now, the first time I ever learned ham bone or ever heard about ham boning was way back in the 50s from my great-great-grandfather, okay, who actually was born a slave but lived on a sharecropping farm. And he would always say to me when I was a little boy, he'd say, boy, back when I was on the plantation, they said you wasn't a man unless you could pick a bale of cotton in a day. And I'd always say, sing that cotton song, great-granddaddy, sing that cotton song. He said, boy, did you hear me? I say, yes, sir, great-granddaddy, I heard you. He said, boy, I didn't ask you if you heard me, boy. I asked you if you heard me, if you understood what I was saying, boy. And I said, well, yes, sir, great-granddaddy, I understand what you were saying. But of course, I really didn't understand what he was saying. I only said that because I wanted him to sing the song. But what he was saying was that you were considered a real man or a real woman by how much cotton you could pick in one day. And a bale of cotton is enough to do all the t-shirts in this room here. So he said, okay, boy, I'll sing the song. Now, how'd it go? Help me out now. And I say, I'm going to jump down, turn around, pick a bale of cotton, great-granddaddy. He said, okay, boy, now what else? And I'd always get confused whether it was pick a bale of hay or pick a bale of day. So if I ever said, pick a bale of hay, great-granddaddy, he said, pick a bale of what, boy? I say, pick a bale of day, great-granddaddy, pick a bale of day. He said, all right, boy, that's more like it. Said, I'm gonna jump down. Sure enough now. Turn around, yeah. Pick a bale of cotton. Well, I'm gonna jump down. Turn around, yeah. Pick a bale. Pick a bale of day. Well, gonna jump down, turn around, pick a bale of cotton. Gonna jump down, turn around, pick a bale of day. Jump down, turn around, pick a bale of cotton. Jump down, turn around, pick a bale of day. Whoa, whoa. Pick a bale of cotton, say whoa. Pick a bale of day, whoa, whoa. Pick a bale of cotton. Whoa, whoa, Lordy, pick a bale of day, yeah, home. Well, said me and my brother can pick a bale of cotton. Say me and my brother can pick a bale of day. Me and my sister can pick a bale of cotton. Me and my sister can pick a bale of day. Whoa, whoa. Pick a bale of cotton. Say whoa. Pick a bale of day. Whoa, whoa. Pick a bale of cotton. Whoa, whoa, Lordy, pick a bale of day. Yeah, home. Well, gonna jump down, turn around, yeah. Jump down, turn around. Well, now gonna jump down, turn around, yeah. Jump down, turn around. Well, now gonna jump down, turn around, pick a bale of cotton. Jump down, turn around, pick a bale of day. Jump down, turn around, pick a bale of cotton. Jump down, turn around, pick a bale of day. Whoa, whoa. Pick a bale of cotton, say whoa. Pick a bale of day, whoa, whoa. Pick a bale of cotton. Whoa, whoa, Lordy, pick a bale of day, yeah, huh? That's the song, Great Granddaddy, yeah. Thank you. We have another dance for you, and the name of this dance is called Gahun, from Ghana, a country in West Africa. And this is the dance of celebration. And we're here to celebrate Black History Month, the contributions of Black Americans to American society. But what's important to me, well, before I should say that Rainbow Dance Theater in and of itself is really a celebration of diversity. Because we take music and dance traditions from around the world, we blend them together in our own contemporary dance form. So like the colors of the rainbow, the beauty of the rainbow, I should say, is made up of all the diverse colors. We do that with the work that we do. And we also do that in terms of the dancers that we have as well. We have diverse dancers from around the globe. Not so much recently because of the COVID issue, but previously we've had them from China, from Italy, from where? Japan, from all around the globe. Again, this idea of celebrating diversity. Because diversity, that's what makes humanity beautiful. It's what makes humanity strong, it's this diversity. But even more than that, for me, what's really important about this month is this idea that, yes, we recognize Black American contributions to society, but diversity is really broadening and is really expanding. And that's what's exciting to me. Not that we're just celebrating these things in the past, but to see in the future. What do I mean by that? I mean that for now, we're looking at sexuality as diversity. We're looking at able-bodiedness as diversity. The people of different abilities, that we accept them. We just don't say, oh, they're different or they're special or whatever those terms are that we use, but that we're broadening the conversation about diversity. And so it makes me wonder, what is it going to be like in the future? How are we going to be more inclusive of people and their differences in the future? And so this month is really about celebrating, for me, about diversity, about that idea of inclusion, no matter what your perspective, whether it's ideological, whether it's physical, whether it's sexual, whatever your thing is that makes you an individual, that we can celebrate that. And so we'll do this last dance for you called Gahun in celebration of diversity. Thank you.
Yubala yubala yo, yubala yubala yo, yubala yubala yo. Yubala yo, yubala yo,
My wife and I have been going to Ghana for 7 summers now. Last year we didn't get to go, COVID. One night they brought us down to the beach, and 7, 8 dancers. And it was dark outside, so they had to use flames and everything. And they were doing, and it was wow. And I hadn't been humbled like that, and it was pretty cool. That was pretty cool. Elizabeth Bratz, Black, female, Hispanic, Native American, LGBTQ. How many things do you want to put on top of? There's this thing of, in America, we put titles on. My dad, Dr. Frank Elmore Sr., I think there's 14 initials after his name. My wife, Dr. Elisa Maroney, How many things do you want to put on your life? What's amazing in that is once you start putting on all those titles and all those things on you, you deserve respect just for the place that you stand in the lives of America. Just for the place where you stand and choose to make it known, this is who I am. The one thing that's really interesting, and I need to say right now, when I say Pastor Frank, I don't want you to think that there's a block there for a certain type of person in any way, shape, or form. I have walked out of Bible study classes because they talked about those people and them. I will not in my life tolerate any form of that conversation. And if you bring it into my life, we're done. We are not separate from one another by any means in any way, shape, or form. I go to my protest, and this sounds funny, I go to the Red Cross to give blood and platelets because I'm a black man and I'm going to put my blood inside of somebody. I mean it. So there's this thing, when you meet somebody who's going to carry their title on them, respect them because they're fighting to let you see their title and who and what they are. Elizabeth.
Hello, everyone, and good evening. My name is Elizabeth Braatz, and I'm a fourth-year student at Western Oregon University. And I will be graduating this spring. Thank you. I will be graduating this spring with a Bachelor's of Science in Criminal Justice. Additionally, I honorably serve as the Senate President for the Associated Students of Western Oregon University. Tonight, I am extremely blessed to be here and to talk to you all. But before I begin, I want to take a few moments to acknowledge a couple of things that are pressing on my thoughts and emotions. I want to acknowledge the events that are taking place between Russia and Ukraine. With there being so many unknowns, yet a lot of news coverage, I know that as a student and as a person, it can be overwhelming and scary. But we must recognize the monumental impacts in innocent lives that are and will continue to be impacted by this unsensible act of war. To quote the brilliant Amanda Gorman, she stated, "Perhaps one day, peace can be a place on earth." With everything unfolding and feeling helpless, I took some time to reflect on the fact that this is not the first time that I have felt this way in the long 21 years that I have lived on this earth. Russia willingly invaded Ukraine, and that is the same terror Black and brown folks have and continue to be subjected to in this nation. Acts of war and terror do not always take the form of airstrikes, bombs, military tanks, missiles, and other weaponry. Acts of war and terror can be laws and policies that control and target Black, brown, and underrepresented communities. But don't get me wrong, this nation has absolutely partaken in bombings, assassinations, murders, lynchings, and other acts of incomparable violence against Black and brown communities. We just don't talk about it. I will circle back to this topic in a little bit, but for now, I want to take you back to the day that I entered this world as a person of color. On August 18th, 2000, I was brought into this world through cesarean section. My birth mother had gone through an intense labor, and her blood pressure began to rise, and so did mine. So I was quickly taken out. In the presence of my birth was my mother and my father, who took me home the next day. For the first 11 years of my life, I grew up in San Diego, California, with my mom, my dad, and my brother. I have a very unique family because we all do not share one single strand of DNA. Both my brother and I were adopted, and my mom was adopted from Greece. In my family, we have a joke that my dad is the outlier of the family because even our dogs are adopted. I was so very fortunate to grow up in a diverse community of people where different cultures were prevalent and celebrated. My peers looked like me. They had accents, had braids and beads in their hair, wore cultural scarves, and had cultural markings on their bodies, and sometimes even wore traditional clothing to school. As young children, we celebrated our differences, but we also absorbed and recognized that we were different from our white peers. When I was very young, I grew up around two other Black girls named Chloe and Kenya. We were best friends, and we called our little posse the Brown Girls. Our families even referred to us as that because we took great pride in our melanin. I loved having peers who looked like me, and I never felt out of place until I moved to an island in Washington when I was 11 years old. I moved to a predominantly white town and attended 6th through 12th grade in predominantly white schools. I could count the number of Black and brown people with my fingers. One encounter that I remember was when I was in 6th grade, and that always stuck with me. And this was an incident that I had when I was doing a math project. When I was 7 years old, I was diagnosed with an auditory processing disorder that severely stunted my academic process. However, I had the environmental, economic, and academic means to receive access to resources and services that helped me get back on track and provide support during my educational career. I also have an amazing family that stood by me and continues to stand by me as I surpass all odds against me. Due to my learning disability, I struggled severely in math and science, but my dad, tutors, and neighbors helped me, even into college, to ensure that I grasped concepts and felt comfortable in those subjects. Now back to the incident in 6th grade. I had been assigned a project that required using math equations to create a drawing. And let me tell you, I'm also not a great drawer. So this project took forever. But with the help of my dad, I got it done and was in bed at 9 p.m., which was pretty late for me back then. The next day in school, our teacher put up our math projects on the display board in the main hall. While I was working on math problems for the daily activity, my math teacher came up to me and asked me to come and speak with her in the hall. She asked me where my project was, and I told her I had handed it in at the beginning of class, just like the rest of the students. She said that all of the projects handed in, and my name was not on any of the projects that she had hung up. So together, we went and examined the board of projects until I was able to point out my project to her. When I pointed it out, another student had erased my name and put their name on my project, a little white boy named Alex. At first, my teacher didn't believe me and believed Alex until she looked a little closer and saw that he had, in fact, erased my name and replaced his. That moment always felt wrong, but I did not have the vocabulary and the knowledge to best equip myself to defend myself in those moments. From that point on, 6th grade through 12th grade, I had countless incidents of the same status and worse. They all came in forms of aggression and racism, and there is no in between. America's education system traumatized me, and I would go as far as to say in some ways they failed me. It was not until I learned factual history, correct contexts, narratives, stories, and information that I was able to reconstruct essentially my entire existence and perception of life. When I came to Western, I would say that is when my identities switched on. Between 6th through 12th grade, I was in survival mode. I had to do what I needed for self-preservation and survival. When I was young, I was naive and oblivious to the depravity of this world. I stored and I continue to store my childhood in the safest chamber in my heart. And I will guard it at all costs because that little girl lived a happy life. And she always saw the best in people and humanity. She was half happy, and she smiled, and she laughed, and she believed in something greater and bigger than she could ever imagine. I yearn for that feeling again, but while I search, I revisit those memories in my dreams. I am a Black, Hispanic, Indigenous woman, and I'm proudly an openly gay woman. I represent multiple identities that are stunningly beautiful, brilliant, and brave. I'm so proud to carry on the existence of my ancestors. I have grown into my identities during my time here at Western, but truthfully, I attribute that progression to my own self-perseverance and the amazing people I have met along the way during my time here. I quickly coined a strong presence on campus due to my advocacy and persistent fight for better educational capacities, curriculum, resources, services, and much more. I am absolutely a force to be reckoned with because my ancestors would expect nothing less. During my first year at Western, there were acts of anti-Semitic and racist vandalism, both on and off campus. So myself and the ASWOU president, President Jackson, created, organized, and led the End Hate March to show students in the Monmouth independence community that we as students will not condone that behavior. From there, my advocacy platform launched, and I began advocacy at the state level, testifying for state and House bills that impact students in higher education and the BIPOC and underserved communities. I will continue to do that for the rest of my life. During my junior year at Western, during the height of the pandemic, I advocated for the implementation of the satisfactory no credit option for students so that students can focus on themselves, their families, and their mental, physical, and emotional health. With a ton of help from the Faculty Senate and the former Senate President of the Associated Students of Western Oregon University, who is with me tonight, I reformatted and presented statistical and analytical data that proceeded to not only gain the support of faculty and the student body, but it passed, and it was in effect for the remainder of the academic year. The grading option I created and helped implement now serves as the permanent satisfactory no credit grading option at this institution. Those are just some of the actions I have taken to advocate and fight for the BIPOC and underserved communities. But I will not stop there. I intend to make it all the way to Capitol Hill, where I will ensure that what I fight for will pass, be implemented, and change lives. Black History Month ends in 2 days. In the month of February, the shortest month of the year, this nation officially recognizes 28 days dedicated to Black history. But I stand here today that on March 1st, I will still be Black, and Black people will still be Black. And the systemic, political, educational, and institutional barriers will continue. I could have spent my time up here today talking about historical events that I wanted you all to know about. I could have spent my time talking about the historical timeline of how Black people were stolen, murdered, and enslaved into this country. I could have taken a lot of different paths tonight, but today, I wanted to stand up here and remind you all that Black folks will still be Black, and the persistence of basic human rights, freedom, prosperity, and liberty will continue to be a fight for not only the Black community, but for all communities who are not white and identify within the constructed binary spectrum. Black History Month has brought us all here together, but I urge you to keep showing up, doing the research, having the hard conversations, being honest with yourself, and always stand up and do the right thing. Doing the right thing doesn't always mean it is clear and simple, but it means that you are standing up for what you believe in. All of my ancestors stood up for what they believed in, and they always did the right thing. And over 400 years later, I am living proof that doing the right thing will always prevail. Thank you all for showing up today, and thank you, Carol, and all of the other city council members for giving me the opportunities to speak today. It is important to amplify Black voices, and I am grateful to be here today because many of my brothers and sisters my age don't make it, My brother says that I am the light of my family, but I now believe that I am a light for more than just my family. I believe all my ancestors came together from all of my identities to ensure that on August 18th, 2000, I was brought into this world to light the way to a better future. But it can't just take one light. We all must light the paths for not only a better future, but for a better world, where it is the norm to strive to be better for the underdogs of not only this nation, but the world. We all must light the way. As the late John Lewis said, my philosophy is simple. When you see something that is not right, not fair, not just, say something, do something. Get in trouble, good trouble, necessary trouble. And I, for one, believe and partake in good trouble, necessary trouble, because that is how history is made. Thank you all for coming tonight, and forever in solidarity, Black Lives Matter.
Carol just asked me to introduce the band, so that is what I will proceed to do. Over here on the drums, we have Corbin. Corbin already graduated from the high school we all attend. Corbin already graduated from the high school we attend, but he took time out of his day today and out of this last week practicing to come play with us tonight because he felt like that was something that would help in this event, I guess. We have Elijah on the trombone, Jonathan on the trombone back there too. Jonathan has helped a lot in planning this. It's not just me. He's pretty much the other person planning. We have Joanna on the trumpet. She's the only trumpet here, which is pretty hard to do. So I think that's something that deserves recognition. We have Kimball on the saxophone, which he is also the only alto sax here. So he's gonna be representing his section, I guess. We also have Koya on the tenor saxophone, which is also a really cool thing. And then, last but not least, we have Landon on the baritone saxophone. That's also a cool thing. And then I'm just gonna be playing the piano. And we're just high schoolers. Yeah.
There's an article written, New York Times, Black History Month is about seeing America clearly. I'm going to hand it out. When we look at American history, one of the things that, do you know who the Buffalo Riders were? And why they got their name? Their skin was dark and their hair was fluffy. Did you know that Teddy Roosevelt's big march up the hill was actually done by a black army troop at first, and then Teddy Roosevelt went second? The Air Force. There's a lot of black history that we've kind of covered over and moved and set aside and everything else. In doing that, find out about black history. My dad was here and he spoke 3 weeks ago, and he handed out a book list, and I'm going to try to get the book list and all the books over at the Monmouth Library. One of the books in there that I find most interesting is How the South Won the War. And I don't mean this as a hate speech or anything else, but I do mean it as it really bugs me. All the statues that we have of the heroes from the South are from the folks that tried to overthrow a government. Traitors, in a sense. And we set up monuments to these guys. The $20 bill, you want to make me really mad? The man on the $20 bill is responsible for the death of 12 estimated million people. He moved them from here to there, forced them to march, starve, die, took their lands, yet we put his face on a $20 bill. There are still things that we have to learn from one another and give opportunity for one another to speak to each other. I'm just one guy. But there's a story that I have to tell. There are stories that each of you have to tell, and I'm willing to learn it if we're willing to share that information one with another. Last closing remark, because I know I can get a little long-winded. Lorenzo Marsh is the name of my great-great-grandfather. Sold into slavery, branded in Africa, sold into slavery in South Carolina. In South Carolina, Lorenzo Marsh had 14 children. At the age of 34, Lorenzo Marsh was sold to Alabama. There, Lorenzo Morris had 14 children. 28 children. And I will never know the other. I don't know who the Marshes are. Within his children, the second son, Lorenzo Morris, my great-grandfather, decided that each and every one of his kids was going to go to school. So one at a time, they would send the oldest, and everybody would work and pay the bill for the one. Then when he graduated, they sent number two, and everybody would work, making sure that number two got through. Then number three, number four, number five, and it went all the way through. And of the 12 surviving children, they all have degrees. They all made it. My dad is the third PhD within the Morris family. But my dad is a U.S. ambassador, retired foreign service, retired president of the Black Caucus Foundation, retired president of the United Universalist Church, he retired, ba-ba, ba-ba, ba-ba. And I couldn't be more happy, proud of that man than anybody else. The one thing is, though, I grew up with him, and I'm tired of his stories. But he has stories. He can tell you things that I could never tell. But if you want to know what it's like to survive in a university system in the 1960s as a black man, it's not easy. Those are the stories we need to tell one another. I need to know your stories. You need to know mine. So for the rest of the year, find out. Ask the question. Don't be invisible. And go ahead and be a little uncomfortable. Wear a T-shirt that says something on it. Find a black coffee company. Find a black woman who, women's t-shirt company. Find something. And start doing everything with them. Grow a black company. Grow a foster system. Within the foster system in this area, at 18 years old, the family's no longer responsible for the kids. Not at all. We don't get paid by the state. Get out. Help a foster kid that's 19. Help somebody else. And when everything it gets so hard on yourself, the easiest thing to do is look out and help the next person along. So, my charge to each and every single one of you is don't let this month end. Let this February run into the next February. Let our activity here today be the beginning of the activity you carry on throughout a year. Don't be invisible. Don't be hidden. Let your voice be heard. And when people don't understand you, keep yelling. Cry a little. Hug somebody. Be a part of somebody else's life. And in that, you will grow your life and you will grow their life. I'll close in a quick prayer, and then I'll let you go. Dear Lord, thank you. Thank you most of all for the volunteers that have put this together, not because they were forced to, but because they wanted and desired to. Let the desires of our heart lead the steps that we walk. Let us walk up to one another thankfully and lovingly. Let us share the hurts and the sorrows of one another so that we can find joy, we can find peace. But most of all, let us not forget that each and every one of us is a part of each and every one of us. None of us is less than and none is greater than. We are yours. And I pray that in Christ's name, amen.